People often ask, why doesn't Tab for a Cause give 100% of its revenue to nonprofits? Our financials are public, so we welcome everybody to dive in and ask these important questions. And it's an excellent question. As a company with a social good mission, it can be difficult to decide how and where to spend money. After all, every dollar that we spend on costs is a dollar that's not going to nonprofits, so it needs to be worthwhile. The answer? Investing in the future of Tab for a Cause better fulfills our mission and increases the amount of money that our community can raise for nonprofits. If we didn't believe this, we wouldn't spend the money. This video is going to talk about our rationale for investing in growth, how our thinking has evolved, and how investing in growth has dramatically increased the scale of our community's impact. But before we get into that, first we need to cover what is Tab for a Cause. Tab for a Cause makes it extremely simple for just about anybody to do good every day. It replaces the default new tab page in your browser with one that has a beautiful image, some information about the cause that you're supporting, and a couple of ads. We use the revenue from those ads to raise money for amazing organizations like Partners in Health, Water.org, Conservation International, and many more. For the first few years of Tab for a Cause, we gave 100% of our revenue to nonprofits, and our two co-founders covered operational costs out of pocket. They also had other jobs to cover these costs at the time. They believed, almost as a moral imperative, that minimizing overhead costs was core to their mission. However, as their community continued to grow, they realized a few things. First, the cost to maintain the project, both monetarily and the demands on their time, were beginning to grow pretty rapidly. And given number one, if they didn't have the resources to keep the lights on, then Tab for a Cause would fade away. Anytime new people heard about Tab for a Cause, they were really excited to start using it. So they figured the more people who knew about it, the more money that they could be giving to nonprofits. And finally, judging social good organizations solely on whether they can minimize their overhead costs can be really debilitating for the organization in the long run. For more information on that, we'll have a talk linked in the description. Our co-founders began to wonder if they were undermining the mission by not investing in the growth and maintenance of this community. What good was 100% of $0 if they couldn't keep the project running? What long-term impact were they sacrificing by not investing in the future? They saw two potential paths. One, continue giving 100% of revenue to nonprofits. They'd keep the scope of the project to a level that they could easily manage with their spare time and money, and wouldn't spend money to grow the community. Or two, reinvest some portion of the revenue into growth. They'd have a full-time team to support and improve the product, and they'd see whether they could sustainably grow the community through marketing. So they weighed the pros and cons. When it comes to investing in growth, they could reach more people if they invested in spreading the word about Tab for a Cause. As long as we're careful that every dollar spent equates to more than a dollar raised for nonprofits, we'd all be raising more money for great causes. Tab for a Cause is dependent on ads, and advertising is more effective at scale. With a bigger audience, not only does the total volume of ads increase, but so does the value of each ad. And they'd have the resources to improve the product and the experience for the users. Essentially meaning providing fair wages to a skilled team. Where there are pros, there are gonna be cons. So some of the cons to investing in growth is that investing in growth can be really risky. Their assumptions could have been wrong, and there was a potential of wasting money that could have gone to nonprofits. Investing in growth also means that the purity of the project would be ruined. Our co-founders built Tab for a Cause out of love, and it felt kind of weird to make it a job. Some people would even disagree with their decision to have any costs at all. And without clear guardrails, it could be a slippery slope where social impact becomes secondary to investing in growth. This was a pivotal decision for Tab for a Cause. Whatever decisions they made, they wanted to do it thoughtfully and with their mission in mind. Considering the two options, it became clear that Tab for a Cause needed to invest in growth. We'd be able to reach more people and raise more money for nonprofits if we could be a sustainable business that could grow alongside our users in the long term. Otherwise, it feels like we're ignoring a huge opportunity to do good. At the same time, we've taken a lot of steps to minimize the potential downside to investing in growth. First, we decided it was imperative to pledge a percentage of our gross revenue to nonprofits, whereas many social impact companies pledge a percentage of their profit. While the distinction between the two requires its own video, the short version is that profit is what's left over after everything is paid. So 100% of profit might not mean as much if your costs are ballooning. Gross revenue, on the other hand, is the amount of money any company makes before costs. We believe benchmarking on gross revenue is the more responsible choice. It's easier to understand, and it doesn't leave any wiggle room to hide behind costs. So we set that a minimum of 30% of all of the money that Tab for a Cause receives will go to nonprofits. Second, we wanted to be incredibly transparent about how we spend our money and started publishing our financials. Third, our co-founders wanted to always pay their employees a fair living wage. The vast majority of the non-charity expenses behind Tab for a Cause are paying the team and their salaries. Finally, they set up frameworks for marketing spending to ensure that whenever we spend $1, we're reasonably confident that it will bring in more than $1 for nonprofits. Ultimately, Ultimately, we want our tabbers to know that every dollar that they raise helps make the world a better place. At least 30% of every dollar will go to nonprofits, and our costs will go toward hiring an exceptional team to keep Tab for a Cause going, sponsoring awesome content creators to spread the word, and paying professional lawyers and accountants to ensure that Tab for a Cause is built for the long term. Now, you're probably wondering, has the growth paid off? Yes. With a full-time team and marketing behind it, Tab for a Cause quickly grew into a sustainable business, and we've now raised over $1.4 million for charity. Now our investment in the future continues. We remain vigilant about how our costs can support our mission and do long-term good. We're confident that in a few years we can look back on today and feel similarly proud of the growth that we've done. We are constantly astounded by the impact that browser tabs can have on the world, and our tabbers are just getting started. Thanks so much for learning more about Tab for a Cause, and happy tabbing!